Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning and welcome to the Biblioteca Alexandrina. صباح الخير ومرحبا بكم في مكتبة الإسكندرية. Kalimera, que kalos irtate stin bibliotekis des Alexandrias. Today we gather to celebrate the 10th anniversary of the Alexandria Center for Hellenistic Studies. 10 years of uncovering and discovering the glory of the Hellenistic era, a term unique to the region, yet familiar to the ever-continuous shared history between the great nations of Egypt and Greece. The city of Alexandria, named after its founder, Alexander the Great, later brought about its great library, epitomizing the true meaning of international academic research and shared intellectual exchange. Some of the ancient world's great minds lived and worked during the Hellenistic period, including Eratosthenes, Euclid, Archimedes, and many more. As I look across the room today, it is inspiring to see, once again, key representatives of these two magnificent cultures, which merged into one harmonious entity and who continue, as their predecessors, to create and disseminate knowledge, understanding, and mutual respect. Before we hear from our distinguished guests, let us reflect a moment with a short film about the Alexandria Center for Hellenistic Studies.
For more than 2,000 years, Alexandria was not only the capital and the largest city in Egypt, but also the leading cultural center of the ancient world. The world that embraced the ancient library of Alexandria and gathered people of different religions and cultures. Alexandria was once the center of the Hellenistic Empire and the hub of scholarship and commerce in the ancient world. The Hellenistic period covers the time in Mediterranean history between the death of Alexander the Great in 323 BC and the emergence of the Roman Empire, as signified by the Battle of Actium in 31 BC and the Roman annexation of Egypt in 30 BC. That period is characterized by an endless struggle between the Hellenistic kingdoms, which formed Alexander the Great's former empire. It is also significant for its great cultural, architectural, and scientific advancements and innovations, including the creation and development of libraries, the most famous being in Alexandria. Some of the ancient world's great minds who lived and worked during the Hellenistic period are Aristotle, Menander, Epicure, Eratosthenes, Euclid, Archimedes, Polybius, and others. Despite its importance, however, very few academic programs focus on Hellenistic studies. The Alexandria Center for Hellenistic Studies, ACHS, in Alexandria, was most appropriate to fill this gap and focus on this rich period and its immense contributions to human knowledge. The initial idea of establishing the center came from the director of the Biblioteca Alexandrina in 2008. It was brought forward to the president of Alexandria University and the dean of Faculty of Arts, who were very supportive of the idea. The director of BA took the responsibility of securing the funding through two of the biggest cultural institutions in Athens, the Onassis Foundation and the Fardinoyannis Foundation. The mission of the ACHS is to revive the classical collaboration between Egypt and Greece that led to Alexandria's prominence as a leading educational establishment in the ancient world. By offering opportunities for distinguished academic research, using cutting-edge technology, and the exchange of expertise and learning, the Center draws scholars from around the world, ensuring an international academic standard and a specialized knowledge about the Hellenistic world. Symbolized by the lighthouse of Alexandria, humanism and multiculturalism are the values promoted by Alexander the Great and upheld by the Center. Students at the Center are keen to study at a postgraduate level, diploma, master's and doctoral degrees in Hellenistic studies, and to learn critical thinking and acquire a historical understanding of both the past and the present. Apart from the Center's academic responsibilities, the ACHS has always been involved in public awareness of cultural heritage and archaeology. Over the past decade, various activities and events were organized in collaboration with international and national institutions. Public lectures, international workshops, seminars, conferences, exhibitions, and publications, all of which are announced on the ACHS Facebook and website, the BA website, and in national newspapers.
The Bibliotheca Alexandrina, in this modern revival of its ancient predecessor, continues to build on the vision of those past, better understanding the dynamics of today, to build a vision for a better future. And what a great past to shoulder. Indeed, it was here Eratosthenes first calculated the circumference of the earth. It was here that Aristarchus first placed the sun at the center of the universe. It was here that Euclid wrote his Elements, and it was here that many of those names bore the title of heading the greatest world institution of its time. And with that, it is now my honor to invite to the podium the director of the new Library of Alexandria, the Bibliotheca Alexandrina, and chair of the Board of Directors for the Alexandria Center for Hellenistic Studies, His Excellency Professor Mustapha El-Fiqi.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I would like in the beginning to welcome our guests here. We have the Bob. He is not a newcomer to the library. He's a great friend, and we used to receive his blessings whenever he comes to visit us here in this library. Also, I would like to say welcome to all ambassadors and consul generals and the professors, and of course a special regards to His Excellency, the new ambassador of Greece in Egypt. It's the first time to see him here with us, and he was born in Port Said, that's why he knows Egypt very well, and there are many friends here. Of course, we are meeting today with the presence of a very distinguished lady, Mouiriana Fardinianus. She is the founder of the Hellenistic Center in the library, and we are honored that we are completing now 10 years since we started this cooperation between her and our library, Bibliotheca Alexandrina. I consider her visit today, though that she has a very heavy schedule, as I have known, it's a sign of her attention and awareness of the role the Hellenistic Center is playing with Alexandria University. That's why I'm glad that we have an official representative of the president of Alexandria University, one of his deputies. He's welcomed also. I would like to tell you that the relation between our two nations, Egypt and Greece, goes back in history. Even those who have studied the history and they have seen the overlapping, certain periods, we have a mixture of the Pharaonic and the Hellenic history. We can't forget that I myself, I have heard the president of Greece saying at once that Alexandria was the most important city for the Greeks in the world. That's why whenever we meet in Alexandria, it's a celebration of the long relation between our two nations. I'm glad that we are celebrating this occasion today, and I'm sure that Mrs. Mouiriana will pay us other visits if she is not able to continue the whole day with us, for reasons I know. Then I'm sure that she will promise to come to us every year to celebrate this occasion. I would like to thank those who worked for this occasion to be like this, all my colleagues. I don't like to mention my names because I will forget some of them. But in the meantime, I feel that being all together here is a sign of the high respect directed to this occasion, because I can't find better than the cultural cooperation between countries and nations. This is the only key for future, because we may have some, of course not between us and Greece, but between other countries, some political differences, economic conflicts, but whenever it comes to culture, everybody knows that this is the umbrella covers all of us in a certain time. Again, all my regards and respect, and welcome Mrs. Mouiriana. We are happy. There is only a special remark I would like to give, though this is the 10th anniversary of the Hellenistic Center. It's also the birthday of my deputy, my assistant, Huda al-Miqati. Special congratulations to her and to you all. And also I would like to say hello to my good friend, where is he? Roger Sha'al. He's an old friend. We know each other years and years. Now he is the honorary representative of Order of Malta Embassy in Cairo. Again, welcome Mrs. Mouiriana. All our regards and respect to your husband and your colleagues, and be sure that we are expecting you to come every year. Thank you.
Egypt, the mother of civilization and home of monotheistic religions. The first patriarchate of Christianity were established in Alexandria in the 1st century of the Common Era. Indeed, the Patriarchate of Alexandria has a history of 2,000 years in Egypt and in Africa. According to the church traditions, the apostle and evangelist Mark is considered to be the founder and first bishop of the Alexandrian church. It therefore gives me great pleasure and an honor to welcome to the podium His Beatitude, the Pope and Patriarch of Alexandria and all Africa, Patriarch ثيؤدورس II of Alexandria.
Αξιότιμε Δόκτωρ Μουστάφα Ελφεκή, Διευθυντά της Αλεξανδρινής Βιβλιοθήκης. Ερήτημε κυρία Μαριάννα Βαρδινογιάννη, φίλοι αγαπητοί, πρέσβη καλής θελήσεως UNESCO, αρχόντισσα των εκκλησιών του Πατριαρχείου. Συνεορτάζοντες συμπολίτες και πιστά τέκνα ημών. Με ιδιαίτερη χαρά και συγκίνηση συνεορτάζουμε σήμερα τα 10 έτη συνεχούς και ακολήτου λειτουργίας του Αλεξανδρινού Κέντρου Ελληνιστικών Σπουδών της Βιβλιοθήκης Αλεξανδρίας. Με την ανεκτήμητο αρρωγή και το σόφρον όραμα του Ιδρύματος Μαριάννα Βαρδινογιάννη Βαρδί της Βιβλιοθήκης Αλεξανδρίας, του Ιδρύματος Ωνάση και του Πανεπιστημίου της Αλεξανδρίας, το Αλεξανδρινό Κέντρο Ελληνιστικών Σπουδών μετρά ήδη 10 αγλαόκαρπα έτη προσφοράς, ζίδωρης δραστηριότητας, σπουδής και άνθησης. Το μοναδικό αυτό καθίδρυμα προσφέρει τη δυνατότητα σε νέους και νέες από όλη την Ιφίλιο, από την Αίγυπτο, την Ευρώπη, τη Μέση Ανατολή, να μελετήσουν τα επιτεύγματα της ελληνιστικής Αλεξάνδρειας, να αποκτήσουν πτυχίο και μεταπτυχιακό δίπλωμα ή να εντρυφήσουν ερευνητικά, παράγοντας νέα γνώση και αποκτώντας διδακτορικό δίπλωμα, δελτίο δηλαδή εισόδου στην κατεξοχήν ερευνητική ακαδημαϊκή ζωή. Να καταστούν ενεργά μέλη του διαλόγου των πολιτισμών, εστία του οποίου δικαίως την χάνει το Αλεξανδρινό Κέντρο, να αναγεννηθούν ως πρέσβεις πολιτισμού, φαεφόροι, γονιπιώντας κάθε ανθρώπινο περιβάλλον με το οποίο θα έλθουν σε επαφή μετά την αποφύτισή τους. Πέραν του φάρου γνώσης που κατεξοχή συγκροτεί το δεκαετές πλέον κέντρο, η διακονία του επιπροσθέντος ενδυναμώνει τις σχέσεις Ελλάδος και Αιγύπτου, τις βαθύτατες ιστορικές και πολιτισμικές συνέργειες των δύο λαών μας. Η γνώση της ζωντανής ιστορίας της πόλεως της Αλεξανδρίας, της αρχαίας Ελλάδος και της αρχαίας Αιγύπτου, της συναισθήσεως της συνεχείας της ιστορικής αυτής πορείας έως και τους χρόνους μας, φέρει καρπό πολλαπλάσιο του ορατού διαγυμνού οφθαλμού. Ιδιότερη ευγνωμοσύνη οφείλουμε σε εσάς, εντιμωτάτη επίτιμε πρόεδρε του Διοικητικού Συμβουλίου του Κέντρου Ελληνιστικών Σπουδών της Βιβλιοθήκης Αλεξανδρίας, η αγαπημένη μου κυρία Μαριάννα Βαρδινογιάννη. Δίχως τη συνεχή και τελεσφόρο υποστήριξή σας, το θεάρεστο έργο που εορτάζομαι σήμερα και του οποίου το μέλλον διαγράφεται περίλαμπρο, δεν θα είχε ουδέποτε υλοποιηθεί. Ενώνουμε την πατριαρχική μας ευγνωμοσύνη με αυτή των αποφύτων του κέντρου και όλων των ανθρώπων που επωφελούνται ακαδημαϊκώς και πνευματικώς από την δραστηριότητά του, διαβεβαιώνοντάς σας πως πάντοτε η μεθυμός συνάντηση περιποιεί σε εμάς αφορμή ιδιαιτέρας χαράς και αφροσύνης και συγχαίροντες δια την ευγενή σας παρουσία όχι μόνο εις τα δρόμενα του συγχρόνου δυσμημερούς ιστορικής συγκυρίας της πατρίδος ημών, αλλά και εις τα πολιτισμικά προπύρια της οικουμενικής μας ομογένειας. Ευχόμεθα εκ μέσης καρδίας, πάσαν παρεκυρία ευλογία και δύναμη, εν εισπράτεται αγαθής και διατελούμε με τα πολλών ευχών πατριαρχικών και ευλογιών. Το Πατριαρχείο Αλεξανδρίας αγκαλιάζει την εδώ δεκαετή πρωτοβουλία διότι το ίδιο συνδέεται με τον Αλεξανδρινό χώρο και την ιστορία που αυτός φέρει, αφού αποτελεί τον μοναδικό θεσμό ο οποίος λειτουργεί αδιάκοπα και συνδέει την ελληνιστική Αλεξάνδρεια με το παρόν. Η Αλεξανδρινή Εκκλησία φέρει επί τον ώμο της το βάρος της Αλεξανδρινής ιστορίας, της Αλεξανδρινής κοσμόπολης και την διαχρονική οικουμενικότητα της σκέψης της, πέρα και πάνω από έθνη και φυλές. Φέρει την παράδοση της γονιμοποίησης του σπερματικού λόγου με τον Λόγο του Θεού, τη συνάντηση του ελληνιστικού φιλοσοφικού λόγου με τον χριστιανικό, αλλά και των ισχυρών δεσμών με τη γλώσσα της Παλαιάς και Καινής Διαθήκης και την γένεση και διαμόρφωση της χριστιανικής σκέψης και παράδοσης. Τούτη την παράδοση συνεχίζει και διασώζει και αγιοπνευματικώς μεταλαμπαδεύει το Πατριαρχείο Αλεξανδρίας σήμερα στον ευρύτερο χώρο της Αφρικής, ως φυσικός κληρονόμος της Αλεξανδρινής διάνοιας και της Αλεξανδρινής φιλοσοφικής σκέψης, γεγονός το οποίο καθιστά το Πατριαρχείο θερμό συμπαραστάτη του Κέντρου Ελληνιστικών Σπουδών της Βιβλιοθήκης Αλεξανδρίας. Ήθε ο εδώ εορτασμός να συνιστά μόνο την αρχή, όχι μόνο για το Αλεξανδρινό Κέντρο Ελληνιστικών Σπουδών και το λαμπρό του μέλλον, μα για κάθε ανθοφόρο πρωτοβουλία πολιτισμού και παιδείας στην Αίγυπτο και επέκεινα. Εξοχότατε, αγαπημένε Δόκτωρ Μουστάφα Ελφέκη,
Honorable Dr. Mustafa Al-Faqi,
θα ήθελα να εκφράσω ένα μεγάλο ευχαριστώ
I would like to express thank you, a very big thank you to
για το
you
μεγαλύτερο δόλο του Θεού που είναι η αγάπη.
for the biggest present from God that is love.
Και αυτή η αγάπη υπάρχει διάχυτη σε όλο αυτό τον ιερό χώρο της βιβλιοθήκης.
And this love exists here all over the place in the biblioteca.
Όπως εγώ, διδάκτορά μου, προσεύχομαι στην Εκκλησία,
As me, my honorable doctor, I pray in the church.
όπως το τζαμί στο Κοράνιο ακούγεται ο Λόγος του Θεού,
As the word of God is heard in the Quran and in the mosques,
εδώ στη βιβλιοθήκη είναι ένας χώρος του Θεού, χώρος του Πνεύματος.
and here in the biblioteca it's a place of the Spirit, a place of God.
Μαριάννα μου, αρχόντισσά μου, σε ευχαριστώ.
Mrs. Mariana, we thank you very much.
Ήλθες στην Αλεξάνδρεια και ήλθε το φως για να δώσεις κουράγιο στους λίγους που μείναμε. Όμως κρατούμε αυτό τον ιερό χώρο.
You came here in Alexandria to honor us with your presence. We thank you very much for that.
Η καρδιά σου, Μαριάννα μου, είναι ένα μεγάλο κριτικό περιβόλι από τα νησιά μας για να αγκαλιάζει όλα τα παιδιά, μα κυρίως τα άρρωστα παιδιά.
Your heart is big as a garden from Crete, and this is showing a lot of love to the children that you are taking care of.
Και όταν θα παρουσιαστούμε όλοι στο Θεό, θα ερωτήσει αν αγαπήσαμε το δημιούργημά Του που είναι ο άνθρωπος.
And when we appear in front of God, He will ask us if we loved His creation, which is the human being.
Και όταν αγαπάς τον συνάνθρωπό σου, έχεις κερδίσει τον παράδεισο.
And when you love your fellow human, you will win entering paradise.
Δόκτορά μου, κύριε καθηγητά, το σύμβολό μου είναι το λιοντάρι.
Doctor, my honorable doctor,
Και εδώ
my
είναι
symbol is
εικονογραφημένο ψηφιδωτό ότι ο Κύριος, η Αγία Οικογένεια ήρθε στην Αίγυπτο.
My symbol is the lion, and this, what I have in my chest, symbolizes the coming of the Holy Family in Egypt.
Αυτό το λιοντάρι θέλω να σας προσφέρω.
This lion I want to offer to
Για
you,
να σας δίδει δύναμη και χαρά.
to give you power and happiness,
Και η Αλεξάνδρα να είναι ένα φως.
and Alexandria to be a light,
Όπως την ονειρεύτηκε ο Αλέξανδρος ο Μεγάλος, ο Μακεδόνας.
as Alexander the Great from Macedonia imagined it.
Θεόδωρος ο δεύτερος, ελαίου Θεού, Πάπας και Πατριάρχης Αλεξανδρίας και Πάσης Αφρικής. Απονέμουμε το κυρίο Ντόκτρο Μουστάφα Ελφέκη, ελογιμωτάτο Διευθυντή της Βιβλιοθήκης Αλεξανδρίας, Χρυσούν Λέοντα του ημετέρου τάγματος του Λέοντος της Αλεξανδρίας και παρέχομεν αυτό εις πίστοσιν το παρόν ημέτερον εν σφράγις των πατριαρχικών συγγύλιων εν τη μεγάλη πόλη της Αλεξανδρίας, πατριαρχικήν καθέδρανα της ημών μετριότητος, τη 21η του μηνός Οκτωβρίου του 2019 σωτηρίου έτος, ο Πάπας και Πατριάρχης Αλεξανδρίας και Πάσης Αφρικής, Κύριος Θεόδωρος ο Δεύτερος.
The golden Pope and Patriarch of Alexandria and all Africa, ثيؤدورس II. He would like to congratulate you for all the good that you are doing, for the weak people that you are next to them. And that way you will have a lot of blessings from God. Thank you very much.
Archbishop, I'm so touched, and this is a big surprise to me. I have received many decorations from different countries in the world, but this is very special for me. I can assure you that it makes me happy more than anyone. Thank you again, and give your blessings to the kids.
The Hellenistic period prospered and progressed in numerous fields and disciplines. The Alexandria Center for Hellenistic Studies provides academic research and training in all aspects concerning this period for scholars from around the world who are keen to study at a postgraduate level, resulting in diploma, master, and soon doctoral degrees. This could not have been possible without the partnership of yet another great institution with a glorious history and a neighbor of the library in more than one sense. With that, I present to you, on behalf of the President of Alexandria University, the Vice President, Dr. Ala Ramadan.
Mrs. Moriana Fardinouyanis, Goodwill Ambassador of UNESCO, founder and President of Moriaana Fardinouyanis Foundation, also founder and honorary President of Alexandria Center for Hellenistic Studies. The diplomat, great political thinker, Professor Mustapha الفقي, Director of the Bibliotheca Alexandrina. His Beatitude ثيؤدورس II, Pope and Patriarch of Alexandria and all Africa. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. In my capacity as the Vice President of Alexandria University, I have the pleasure to gather here today with all of you. And I would like to convey the best regards of Professor Assam Korti, the President of Alexandria University, and he's apologized for not attending this event for previous conflicting commitments. We are meeting today on this occasion to celebrate the 10th anniversary of Alexandria Center of Hellenistic Studies. This distinguished center was established as a result of cooperation between Alexandria University and Bibliotheca Alexandrina and Moriaana Fardinouyanis Foundation. The three partners have established such center for excellence to offer its student diploma, master degrees, and even soon doctorate in a very unique specialization represents a unique stage of human history known as the Hellenistic era of the Hellenistic Alexandria relative to the place where this world civilization flourished. Ladies and gentlemen, if the emergence of the Hellenistic Alexandria in ancient time BC was a product of Egyptian Hellenic or the Hellenic Egyptian cooperation, likewise, the Alexandria Center of Hellenistic Studies was founded in the early 21st century as a result of cooperation between Egypt, represented by Alexandria University, and Bibliotheca Alexandrina on other hand, and Greece, represented by Moriana Fardinoianis Foundation on the other hand, to continue the cultural communication between Egypt and the Greek peoples. Last but not least, I wish you all a most fruitful time full of interesting and stimulation discussion during this event. Thank you so much.
As history has shown, mutual collaborations can and often do lead to great things. Egypt and Greece shared the Hellenistic era, and its torch continues through the renewed collaboration which created the Center for Hellenistic Studies. For it could not have been possible without a true friend of the library, a member of its advisory board, UNESCO Goodwill Ambassador, and founder and honorary president of the Alexandria Center for Hellenistic Studies, Mrs. Moriana Fardinianis.
Your Beatitude, Excellencies, Honorable and dearest friend, Mr. الفقي, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, Sabak el-Khir. It's with a great honor and emotion that I'm joining you here at the Bibliotheca Alexandrina to celebrate the 10th anniversary of the Alexandria Center for Hellenistic Studies. Our foundation is really proud of the creation of the Center in the Library of Alexandria, this extraordinary intellectual lighthouse of our time and protect of our cultural heritage. It's proud of the success of its noble mission and of all the educational possibilities that it provides to students from all over the world. On this anniversary, I feel the need to recall the important 30 years course that has made the Library of Alexandria one of the greatest achievements of the modern world, and also some particular moments of our center which are very special to my heart. Such as in 1990, the declaration to the revival of the ancient library that was signed in Aswan. In 2000, the moment when I had the privilege to receive the invitation to become a member of the founding board of trustees of Bibliotheca Alexandrina. That day was always being treasured in my heart, in my memory, as I felt great responsibility and honor as a Greek, exactly as I feel today to be with you as member of the advisory board. In 2002, the inauguration of the Bibliotheca Alexandrina, opening a new global page in the academic history. In 2008, the establishment of the Alexandria Center of Hellenistic Studies, after my humble requests to make the Hellenistic period a subject of study for the new generations. From that point, we embarked on a journey of education and research, but also of activities and initiatives in Alexandria and in Athens that brought us here to today's occasion. In 2017, the most successful Days International Conference marking the 24 centuries of Hellenistic Alexandria that was held in Acropolis Museum in Athens. In 2018, the first celebration of the 10th anniversary of the Alexandria Center for Hellenistic Studies and the Academy of Athens, with the presence of His Excellency, the President of the Hellenic Republic, Mr. Prokopios Pavlopoulos. And in 2019, the decision of the Board of Directors to present to me the title of the founder and honorary president of the Alexandria Center for Hellenistic Studies, for which I feel truly humbled. As a Greek, but also as a citizen of the world, I feel proud of Hellenistic Alexandria, of its influence to the culture of Mediterranean and the history of the whole world. And it gives me joy and great sense of responsibility, the fact that through this center, my family and I were able to give the opportunity to many young people to study, explore, understand, and be inspired by the achievements of Hellenistic Alexandria, but also to build an academic bridge between Egypt and Greece. Since the ancient times, our countries were having long-lasting bonds of friendship and cooperation, influencing one another with the noblest of ideas, visions, and cultural dialogue. As this effort is fully encouraged by His Excellency President of Egypt, Mr. Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, I would like to thank him from the bottom of my heart for his valuable support. As member of the big international family of the Bibliotheca Alexandrina, I feel deeply grateful to him for his vision that leads the library on a successful way towards the future. I would like to express special thanks to the director of Bibliotheca Alexandrina and chairman of the board of directors of our center, Mr. Mustapha El-Faqi, my very precious and dearest friend, for hosting this beautiful and most symbolic celebration here. I appreciate so much his wholehearted support of our steps and our fruitful cooperation that we have through all these years. I'm feeling deeply touched because today we are honored by the presence of His Beatitude ثيؤدورس, Pope and Patriarch of Alexandria and all Africa, who has been a valuable ally in our effort, and I would like to extend to him my warmest thanks for his precious support and my deep respect and love to his significant and humanitarian work that he's doing for so many years. Moreover, I would like to thank the governor of Alexandria, Professor Abdelaziz Konsowa, and the president of the Alexandria University, Professor Essam El-Kordi, for being valuable allies in our work. Many thanks to all the board members of the Alexandria Center for Hellenistic Studies, Engineer Hodel El-Mikati, Professor Farag Ashraf, Professor Christos Zerefos, and Mr. Harry Jalas, to the director of the center, Professor Emad Khalil, and to the academic staff of the center for their amazing work that they are doing. It's my honor to work with them. I would also like to thank the Greek chapter of the International Association of Friends of Bibliotheca Alexandrina and its president, Mr. Andreas Zaimis, and dearest friend as well. Also the Association on Honoree and supporter, Mrs. Katerina, and dearest friend, Sofianou, for joining us today. Their contribution to the library is very much appreciated. Closing, I would like to congratulate the diploma and master graduate students of our center. I'm so touched and so moved and so happy to share these moments with them, as they are our messengers that spread the light of Hellenistic spirit in every corner of earth. Our students are our hope and our pride. With our students and with all of you that you honor us with your presence today, we start a new chapter in our center, a new decade devoted to the endless treasures of the Hellenistic knowledge and to our cultural heritage the collective memory of humanity. Ladies and gentlemen, in 2020, I have to share with you something very important for my country and international. In 2020, Greece will have a unique opportunity to remind how the ecumenical ideals of peace, freedom, and democracy became the flag of heroic struggles that changed our world. It is the year that will be celebrate the 2,500 years from the Battle of Thermopylae and the Battle of Salamis against the Persian Empire. Two epic moments of Greece, of Mediterranean, and of Europe that became landmark in the history of the West world. As the Dominic Sherwood, he's a very famous historian, and he's also a journalist. He has written in Telegram 2 years ago that if Europe has to, it has to have a birthday, this should be the 29th of September from the Battle of Salamis, because after that, all the Greek 5th century has created, and all the East, all the West has created the famous European and international well-known civilization. Because of that, last week, His Excellency the President of the Hellenic Republic, Mr. Prokopios Pavlopoulos, and His Excellency the Prime Minister, Mr. Kyriakos Mitsotakis, launched the anniversary celebrations in Athens and entrusted me with the mission of organizing this event. As 2020 will be a year of significant culture and educational activities, I am feeling deeply touched to share this with you today, hoping that Bibliotheca Alexandrina and the Alexandria Center for Hellenistic Studies will be our allies and participate in the celebration. This anniversary is international, and I invite all of you who are here today to join us in this effort and to come to Greece when we have the celebration that can inspire young generations to achieve courageous steps for the building of a better world. Shukran Gidan.
The Alexandria Center for Hellenistic Studies has the Lighthouse of Alexandria as its symbol, aiming to be a beacon for enlightenment on this wealthy era of our history, and provide further insight into its strong academic study, further insight into it through strong academic study, as well as heighten the public's awareness of this era through different events and activities. Allow me to invite now to the podium Professor Ahmed Khalil, supervisor of the Alexandria Center for Hellenistic Studies, to tell us more about the achievements over the past decade. Thank you.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, our dear friends and honorable guests. Professor Mustapha Al-Fayy, the president of the BEA, His Beatitude ثيؤدورس II, Pope of Alexandria, Patriarch of Alexandria and all Africa, and Mrs. Fardinianis, our honorable guest and founder of the Center for Hellenistic Studies. Actually, it's a great pleasure for me personally to witness this moment and to be in charge of the center while it's celebrating its 10th anniversary. I've been only in charge of the center for the past 2 or 3 years. So just to be here at this moment is actually a great pleasure and honor for me personally. Over the past years, the center have had an immense support, not just from the people of the BA, of the employees of the center, but also from everyone at the BA. Every department and every administration at the Bibliotheca Alexandrina has been very supportive to the BA, and of course our sponsor, Mrs. Fardinianis. Just like Mrs. Fardinianis said that the Battle of Salamis was a turning point in the history of the world, In fact, the death of Alexander the Great as well was a turning point in the history of the world. And the philosophy behind creating the Center for Hellenistic Studies is to shed light on one of the most significant periods in ancient history. It is a representative of globalization in its present sense. Hellenistic period was the old sense of globalization, actually. Between the death of Alexander the Great in 323 and between the predominance of the Roman Empire in 30 BC, those 300 years, only 300 years, represented what we believe now is the very early signs of internationalization and globalization. In fact, looking at the history of Egypt and the history of Greek, 300 years is basically nothing in the history of Egypt. It's only 4% of the history of Egypt. Yet, although it's a very tiny fraction, it has represented a lot of achievement. If we look at throughout history, one ancient wonder of the world was created in the Pharaonic period, which is the Great Pyramid, and another ancient wonder of the world was created in the Hellenistic period, which is the Lighthouse of Alexandria. So only 300 years in the history of Egypt produced one of the ancient wonders of the world. In fact, when the Greek historian Plutarch spoke about Queen Cleopatra, the last of the Ptolemaic rulers, he said that, well, he said a lot of things, but he said that the sound of her voice was charming. As she turned her tongue to whatever language she wished when meeting with foreigners, in most cases, she answered questions herself, whether they were asked by Ethiopians, Hebrews, Arabs, Syrians, Medes, or Parthians. This not only reflects the exceptional qualities of Cleopatra, but it is an indication on the cosmopolitan nature of Hellenistic Alexandria. The fact that so many races and ethnic groups existed in Alexandria is a typical character of the Hellenistic period. It was the fusion between the Western and Eastern cultures, particularly the Greek and Egyptian, which produced unique characteristics and features of the Hellenistic period. This was clearly reflected on different aspects, starting from art, all the way to literature, architecture, economy, politics, and even science. Therefore, the Alexandria Center for Hellenistic Studies is concerned with all aspects of that unique period. In history, its studies and research conducted at the center covers 6 main areas of focus. These are history, literature, art, archaeology, architecture, and ancient sciences. So the courses which are taught within the center covers all these aspects, and the speciality of students graduated from the center is targeting each of these areas of focus. Over the past 10 years, we have had a total of 135 students enrollment in the postgraduate study, which is an annual average of 13 students. And I mean, in terms of university admission rate, 13 students per year, it's a very good number for postgraduate program. And over the past 5 years only, we have had a total of 91 students, which is even a higher average of 18 students per year, which is again a very good rate for annual intake in a postgraduate program. 22 students have obtained a graduate diploma, and 23 students have obtained a master's degree in Hellenistic studies over the past years. In addition to the educational aspect of the center and its role as an academic institution, over the years, we have carried out more than 50 different events and activities, which were very well received by both specialists and the general public at large. Such activities played a key role in public education and in raising awareness of different aspects of cultural heritage. We are not just targeting academics and researchers, but we are very keen to target the public at large, just to raise awareness about the importance and significance of cultural heritage and its preservation and protection, especially in the Eastern Mediterranean. These activities included a series of public lectures on different topics. And actually, we don't have any problem when you're inviting a speaker to come and talk at the Biblioteca Alexandria. We always get an acceptance. I mean, it's a very attractive it's a place to actually talk and introduce research and introduce ideas. These lectures covered a span of topics, and this is the most recent lecture we just had a couple of weeks ago, by Professor Damien Robinson from the University of Oxford, speaking about the new archaeological discoveries in Alexandria. Also, we have had a number of international seminars and conferences. This is, again, one only a couple of weeks ago on museum studies, and it involved different specialists in museology from Europe, from England, from Greece, and from Belgium. So it was a really successful event just a few weeks ago. We also had a number of exhibitions on heritage and archaeology of Egypt and of the Eastern Mediterranean. Workshops and training courses as well were among the interests of the center. They aimed to building capacity, particularly in the preservation and management of cultural heritage. And again, this is a new term, a new approach when you speak about cultural heritage. 10 years ago, we were always talking about excavations and surveying, but now it's all about management and protection and preservation. Field trips were also an integral part of our courses. Visits to numerous archaeological sites were organized to provide students with hands-on experience. And finally, the center had a number of publications, mainly the proceedings of our conferences, and the most recent of our publications is the proceedings of the Conference on Philosophy in the Hellenistic Period, which has just been released, I think today it's going to be released or very soon. So this is the final publication we just had. In carrying out all these activities, we were fortunate to collaborate with more than 20 international institutions from different countries, from 8 different countries. This collaboration was either in the form of international scholars or speakers visiting the center and lecturing, or in the form of joint projects and joint initiatives and joint activities with international institutions. And this network of institutions will be growing even further in the next few years, inshallah. With regards to our upcoming events, I'm just going to share with you quickly some of the initiatives that we are planning for in the next year, so in 2020, inshallah. Perhaps the most of these initiatives, as have been mentioned, is the PhD program. Until today, we only had a master's degree, and lots of our students sitting there have been asking about PhD programs, so we will be implementing the PhD program starting from next school year. We have already developed the program and developed the syllabus, and it has been kindly approved by Alexandria University, and now it is in the Supreme Council of Universities for a final approval, and this will be a major step forward in the development and history of the Hellenistic Center. On the other hand, we are planning to apply for an EU-funded project, and the call for the project is opening this month, and we will be putting the proposal together. This is through an Erasmus Plus initiative from the European Commission to develop new courses in virtual reality applications. In fact, both the university, Alexandria University, and the BA have extensive experience in virtual reality and 3D modeling. So we'll be putting this in the form of a proposal to the EU Commission to develop new capacity building courses in that aspect. We are also running a children outreach program in collaboration with the Honor Frost Foundation in the UK. They are supporting the program and funding it. And this is aiming to stimulate children's interest in heritage and exploration and preservation. And within the same program, supported by the Honor Frost Foundation, we will, and actually this is in collaboration with the UNESCO. The UNESCO is also supporting this initiative strongly, and we are planning to publish the first ever Arabic children's storybook on underwater culture heritage. The book has already been written, and the illustrations have been done, and very soon it's going to be published. And I think this is something that has never happened before to target children. Thank you. And finally, we are very keen to expand the scope of the Alexandria Center for Hellenistic Studies. Within the same notion of interaction between Northern and Southern Mediterranean, we are planning to develop a joint degree in Euro-Mediterranean Studies between the BA, Alexandria University, and the University of Athens. And already contacts has been established through the Moriana Fardinianis Foundation with the University of Athens, and we will take this forward soon, inshallah. I wish to end my presentation with these words by the famous Roman orator Dio Chrysostom. He visited Alexandria in the early Roman period, and he gave a long speech to the Alexandrians, talking about a lot of things. But among what he said, he was speaking to Alexandrians saying, "I see among you not only Greeks and Italians, but also Syrians, Libyans, Cilicians, and men who dwell more remotely, Ethiopians, Arabs, as well as Bactrians, Thesians, Parthians, and few Indians. For Alexandria is situated, as it were, at the crossroads of the whole world." Thank you very much.
As we gather here to celebrate the past decade of the Center's achievements, we must take a moment to highlight and recognize the tremendous and continuous support that Mrs. Moriana Fardinioannis has given to the Center from the first day of its foundation. She has been the backbone throughout the years towards the realization of a unique center that offers not only continued education, but opens the doors for new dialogue and understanding of common values and celebrated differences. The Biblioteca Alexandrina has prepared a short documentary on the wonderful achievements of Mrs. Moriana Fardinioannis.
Moriana Fardinioannis is a world supporter and fighter for human rights, who has devoted her life to charity and social solidarity. Inspired by motherhood, she has built up an extensive record of humanitarian work for the benefit of children and disadvantaged social groups in Greece and abroad. She has promoted issues of peace, education, health, and cultural heritage. She struggles against human trafficking, exploitation of children, illiteracy, climate change, and other issues of today's concern. Since 1999, Fardinioannis has been Goodwill Ambassador of UNESCO, as well as founder and president of the Moriana V. Fardinioannis Foundation, the Elpida Association of Friends of Children with Cancer, and the Orama Elpidas Association. Fardinioannis also serves as a member of the advisory board of the Biblioteca Alexandrina, member of the Board of Trustees of Mentor International Foundation, member of the Leadership Council of the Robert F. Kennedy Human Rights, member of the Board of Directors of the Nizami Ganjavi International Center, founding member of the Light of Africa Foundation, and president of the Honorary Committee of the Special Olympics Hellas, and many other organizations. Mrs. Moriana Fardinioannis has been supporting the Alexandria Center for Hellenistic Studies and is the founder and honorary president of the center.
Ladies and gentlemen, the inauguration of the Alexandria Center for Hellenistic Studies is a special occasion for us that strengthens even more the long-lasting relations of friendship between Egypt and Greece, and I feel very moved because this project derived from the successful cooperation of the Biblioteca Alexandrina with the Alexander Onassis Foundation and the Fardinioannis Foundation.
Through the Moriana V. Fardinioannis Foundation, she supports children and families in Greece, as well as UNESCO programs for education and culture, promoting the United Nations Development Goals. As the president of Elpida Friends Association of Children with Cancer, Fardinouyannis is fighting against childhood cancer. She has established the first pediatric bone marrow transplant unit and the first oncology pediatric hospital in Greece. The work of Mouariana Fardinouyannis is internationally recognized. She has received many awards and medals. Gold Cross of Benefaction Order of the Greek Republic, Academy of Athens Award, Lady Patriarchate of Alexandria, Knight and Officer of the Legion of Honor of the French Republic, the Grand Prize of the Paris Charter Against Cancer, the Ripple of Hope Award from Robert F. Kennedy Human Rights Foundation, as well as many others. Mouariana Fardinouyannis holds a BA in History of Art and in Economics, MPhil in Archaeology. She received many academic distinctions and honorary doctorates in law, philosophy, and human studies. Today, Bibliotheca Alexandrina will honor her not only for her sincere dedication, but also for serving as an exemplary role model for our students and being an inspiration for future generations. In Mouariana Fardinouyannis' own words, "I have a strong belief that people should always have faith and persistence to reach their lifetime dreams, as long as they use all their power and strength to make them come true."
Professor Mustapha Al-Fiqi to the stage to present a token of gratitude to Mrs. Mouariana Fardinouyannis. Please.
This is a token.
My gratitude for what you have done, for our cooperation, and for our the same ideas that we share for the world. I want to be connected, and all through the centuries, the Greek people with the Egyptians, they are so close friends. They want to continue our cooperation. I want to be next to you, next to Alexandria, the Bibliotheca Alexandrina, and as I was telling you privately before, I will be next to you, whatever you need. It's the most important thing. The education leads the people to have peace and to be, to create a better world, not for us, but for the new generations to come. Thank you from the bottom of my heart, Your Excellency, for your friendship. I feel deeply honored and happy to have your friendship and your support. And I truly believe that our cooperation will continue through the center, and whatever is necessary for me to offer to support the ideas of the library, I will be next to you for now and forever. Thank you so much.
But everybody here is so touchy with your kind words, and after seeing this film, we know exactly who are you. Thank you.
Thank you.
When I came to Cairo, to Alexandria, it's the only country in the world that I feel that I came home. I feel because all the people that I feel my sister, I'd like to bring my homeland. It's the only country that I have this feeling. And this moment, when I landed, I have tears in my eyes. I said, thanks God that I came back to this place, to this beautiful city that I adore. And thank you very much, all of you.
Thank you. If I could kindly invite to the stage Dr. Ala Ramadan on behalf of Alexandria University to take a commemorative photograph with a representative group of students who have earned postgraduate degrees from the past 10 years. Please, Dr. Ala Ramadan and the students from the Alexandria Center for Hellenistic Studies kindly joined us on the stage. Professor Zerafos has coordinated in numerous international competitive research projects, and in December 2006, he was elected full member of the Academy of Athens, Greece. Professor Zerafos has received a number of internationally recognized awards, most recently of which was the title of Emeritus Professor of the Physics Department of the Aristotle University of Thessaloniki, 2018, and the Ioan Ursu Medal of Honor of the Balkan Physical Union 2018. He is currently head of the Research Center for Atmospheric Physics and Climatology, Academy of Athens, Greece, Professor Emeritus at the Faculty of Geology and Geoenvironment in the University of Athens, and member of the Board of Directors of the Alexandria Center for Hellenistic Studies. So please join me in giving a very warm welcome to Professor Zerafos.
Your Beatitude, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, Sayyadati wa Sayyadid. Kalimera σας. I'm humble to present to you some thoughts on shadows and how the shadows have shaped science and great achievements like those that my dear colleague Emad Khalil has presented so nicely and so briefly. So let's start with the period that we live in, which is called the interglacial period. It's a warm period. And that period started closely 30,000 years ago. And you can see some pieces of art in the slide to see two bisons pointing north and south as early as 35,000 years ago. The last retreat of the glaciers took place about 10,000 years ago. And the first civilizations started blooming about 5,000 or more years ago. One of the greatest was the Egyptian civilization. In the Book of Deaths, there is one specific chapter on shadows, but the shadows are presented in that pharaonic book for dead in an allegoric way. I have to remind you that the next allegoric shadow was presented by Plato thousands of years later in his allegory of the cave. So the shadows have been used allegorically until some scientists of the time of pharaohs, probably before the 19th dynasty, have created the needles, which needles were used as sundials, I assume, because they do point out AM and PM, so if it is morning or afternoon, and at the same time with an appropriate scaling around the shadow, around the monument, around the needle, the obelisk, so-called, one could see also the hours of the day. This is one of the most famous, as you know, from the 5th dynasty, 25 years BC, 2500 years BC, which is erected at the Vatican. It was erected in the during the Renaissance, and it comes from Heliopolis. The other 3 obelisks that have been also taken from Egypt, 2 from Heliopolis, and one so-called the Luxor is the one that stands in Paris at the Place de la Concorde. So we know the New York, we know the London obelisk. They were all clocks of their times, clocks of the time. Measuring with shadows has been developed further by wise men. It was said that there were 7 wise men in historic times, like there were 7 wonders. And as correctly pointed out by Dr. Emad Khalil, one of the first, maybe the oldest, were the pyramids. And it took about 3,000 years after to get the next one, which was highly sophisticated. It was the Pharos of Alexandria. Pharos is the lighthouse. It means the lighthouse. There was an island outside of Alexandria, which was connected with the Heptastadion during the creation of Alexandria by Dinocrates, the architect of Alexander the Great, and where my grandfather came to settle from Greece in 1830. My grandfather was born in Alexandria in 1842. My father was born in Alexandria in 1881, and I was born in Cairo in 1943. So all our family has been closely related, and that's why I'm humble and honored and shocked by addressing to you in such a sacred place under the shadow of the image of Pharos. So going back to the 7th wise men of antiquity, Thalis, from Miletos. He visited Greece like many Greeks were doing in the past, and they will keep on doing. And when he met one of the priests, he offered to give him an estimate of the height of the pyramid, and he has used the shadow of his stick, as you know. And it's a matter of simple trigonometry, which was developed also by the Pythagoreans earlier, but then mostly in Alexandria, by Euclid through his creation of the Euclidean geometry. In fact, at the same period, the Academy of Athens was created. I'm humbled to be a member of the modern Academy of Athens by Plato, outside of which it was written, no one who does not know geometry is allowed to enter the temple. So the geometry was the essential knowledge of that time to solve all problems. Problems of property, whenever money are involved, we all know, then there is some work done by scientists, by the poor scientists, who are sponsored by great sponsors like they did in the past and we do today and shall continue in our lives. So the next thing to show is how the delta of the Nile is being twice a year, 2 times a year, in the cold season and in the summer season, it becomes greener. So there were at least 2 times that you can produce products, a very, very cultural fertility region on Earth. So, as you know, Herodotus said that Egypt is the gift of the Nile. But the Nile could be hostile too. He would flood. And by flooding, he would destroy all cultures. So there was a need to measure the level of the Nile River. And this is a Nilometer, one of the elder existing. It's in Elephantine Island in Upper Egypt. It was built between 1580 and 1560 BC, and it has hieroglyphic numerals together with Roman numerals that have been added later. But the interesting thing is that the hieroglyphic numerals have traces of water. And from there on, we know that the taxes given at that time to the pharaohs and to the central treasury were indeed objectively calculated. Why? Because when the Nile had a given level, it was the best for fertility of the area. When it was below, it was arid season, or when it was above, it was a disaster, a flooding. This value of the best, the highest taxes was when the depth of the Nile was about 16 cubits. Cubits were little angels, little boys. And this is shown in one of the most beautiful statues of the god Nile. It is in the Vatican. It is somewhere hidden, not shown to everyone. If you visit the Vatican, please ask to see that statue. It is amazing. It was made in Alexandria. It was stolen by the Romans, and it has been transported to the Pope, and the Pope has it as one of his jewels. Now, what this statue shows, it shows the god Nile, but it shows he has two arms, and there are 7 cupids coming down from one arm and 9 cupids from the other arm. The two arms present the 2 branches of the Nile River. The Nile River is fed. The blue Nile actually comes from Ethiopia, and the white Nile comes from Lake Victoria, from Africa. And you can see that in the 3rd century BC, when that statue was created, they knew that the Nile had 2 branches. It took 2,000 years for Stanley to discover that the Nile had 2 branches, and isn't that something? And it was such a big surprise to the leaders of that period that they named, even when we were coming every summer for our summer vacation, we were swimming at Stanley's beach next to here. So they gave his name because it was considered that he was the man who discovered that. But it was well known since the Hellenistic period. The memory and the destruction of Alexandria by the Romans has left no signs. They have erased even the Greek letters from the stone, Augustus Caesar. And it took only so many years after the discovery of the Rosetta Stone to be able to translate the hieroglyphics, which were everywhere together with the Greek letters. They have been erased. Why? Because he hated Cleopatra. Because Cleopatra was a symbol of Egypt, and Egypt was not friendly to the Roman history. I'm sorry, that is the truth. And we have always to rely on the truth. And here are measurements of the recent period, which is the Arab period, and this period is quite interesting because in Arabic numerals, we could trace the variation of the level of the Nile. And we could see that the Nile, having 2 branches, of course, but it has been varying in time according to global phenomena that were happening far away from Egypt, like the El Niño, which takes place in South Pacific Ocean. So if one makes a close-up to that time series of the past 100 years or so, or 60 years, one can see that the floods were correlated with the Etesian winds, which are winds blowing in the Aegean Sea, and they are opposing, supposedly, according to the ancients, the Nile to discharge. Also, to SOI is the Southern Oscillation Index. It is an index that is describing a huge oscillation in the Pacific Ocean, an immense energy required to change the level of the Pacific Ocean from low to high and vice versa, and this is called the El Niño Southern Oscillation. So you can see that the El Niño Southern Oscillation, which is influencing the monsoons in India, which monsoons in turn provide the water to Ethiopia, which is frozen with frozen ice in Ethiopia, which is melted and provides the water to the Blue Nile. So that's the global system and how it operates. Also, they were using water clocks in the Hellenistic period. This is one, maybe the only observatory that is intact. It is in Athens. It is called the Tower of the Winds, but it had a nice clock that was operating with water. And as you know, water has been used in Alexandria quite extensively, not only by Ctesibius, who was actually the first to discover the pipe organ, but operated with water. And here it's a clock. You can see on the left, it's a big water tank to provide the energy to operate the clock. I saw, dear Emad, that you have shown this wonderful picture, that it's on a beautiful papyrus and paper of that time. And it does show the eclipses of the moon. So, you know, the eclipse, it is a shadow, and it has been also used as a means to measure. And you can see that some wise people like Aristarchus or like Eratosthenes, we will see later, they have used the time to move from the first contact of the eclipse to the last contact, about 3 hours, to measure the distance between the Earth and the Moon. And by knowing it's the calculations here. I know we are a little late, so the calculations are very simple. And it's only that the error in Aristarchus' calculations and the Eratosthenes school, which was here, was about between 2 and 10%, no more, of the distance between the Earth and the Moon, 70 times the Earth's radius. The Earth's radius, also it was measured by looking at shadows, not of a stick like Salis has done, but of the shadow cast by Cleopatra's Needle. You remember the one that is in New York? And the well in Aswan, in Syene at that time. You see, in the 20 or 21st of June, that well here, the sun is completely vertical. So one can use that simple geometry to calculate the angle that is at the arc cast by the radius of the Earth. And it's only 7 degrees distance, 7 degrees in latitude between Aswan and Iskenderiyeh. And these 7 degrees, because you know the arc, the distance, how many stadia there were, you can calculate the radius of the Earth. In that case, with the shadows, Eratosthenes was able to calculate the radius of the Earth, which is 6,300 kilometers, with an error of only 2%. just with that simple experiment of shadows. So the measurements of shadows and of celestial bodies and their movements, and the measurements with the liquids have given ideas to modern science to do measurements in the shadows or the absorption, so-called spectra of different gases. Here is Archimedes. You mentioned about this spiral, which actually it is another way to measure the volume available for irrigation. But also the most important thing is that Archimedes was the first he created the first sustainable machine to pour water from one place to another by using the least energy required. So this is the first example of sustainable energy use. Not to have too many cows or gamusas to turn, the big wheels of buckets and transport water from a lower level to a higher level. Just with the inclined screw, you save energy. And you had only one slave to do the same job, like 10 gamusas. Isn't that something? To those who do not know what is the gamusa, the buffaloes, local buffaloes with beautiful, yes. So it took another 1,000 years for the Westerns to start understanding the universe. And again, I'm quoting Ahmad's quote, that the sun is immobile in our solar system and that the planets rotate around. Actually, he represented the same image like Aristarchus and like Eratosthenes. Nobody speaks about Eratosthenes. He did wonderful measurements. And he was so cultural that he wrote also a tragedy that was played in Alexandria. Isn't that something? So Galileo Galilei, a successor of these great people, he found out that they were right. And he found out that Copernicus was right. Copernicus, in his book, he wrote about Aristarchus and the Alexandrian thought. But this was neglected. And they were both chased by the Inquisition at that time, which was terrible, so terrible that only the Pope could save Galileo, who was also a very decent person. He was humble, he was worshiping the God. He was not any extremist or anything, but he had to admit that the earth is not moving, going out of the Inquisition. And when he went out, he said the famous phrase, "E più si muove." In any case, it moves. So this is science, and this is Galileo, and this is Copernicus system, as we call it, a whole series of satellites who are using shades or the shadows of the absorption of different gases in the atmosphere to measure how much of these gases exist and how they change in time, daily, weekly, and seasonally, but also how they change in time, in longer periods of time. One of the best examples is an instrument that has been designed by a very close friend of mine, John Burroughs from Germany, who has invented schiamachi. Schiamachi comes from it's the acronym of words. S is from scattering, SC, and A, it's from absorption. But actually, the first 4 letters are skia. Skia is the shadow in Greek. When he made the acronym, we have had together a very interesting EU project with my laboratory. And schiamachi came out immediately in our discussions because actually of the schiamachia, which is the fighting between shadows, an old thought of the Platonic school and of the Epicureans concerning the different appearance philosophically in the shadows as the reflections of the truth. The cave allegory has this as a movement of slaves and their shadows, and they are all mixing up. So they cast the real thing that it's outside of the cave. So schiamachi, it's schiamachia in Greek, means the fight of shadows. And indeed, it is the fight of shadows when schiamachi is on the other side of the atmosphere. You can do measurements, and you can do measurements, as we call them, occultation measurements, using the shadow cast by the planet in the atmosphere. So we can do measurements of the profiles of gases in the atmosphere. And here it's how it operates in sequence. And here are real measurements of basic gases that control the climate of our atmosphere. You can see carbon dioxide, you can see methane, you can see nitrous oxide, ozone, and water vapor. And all these are the shadows of the spectrum of each gas. Each gas has its own signature. And that signature, we measure it by measuring its absorption spectrum, which is actually the shadow cast by the gas to the solar radiation. And we can make lots of experiments, and we do that with these beautiful satellites. They surround us. The Copernicus system now is providing services, all kinds of services, and you can see that the open data policy, everybody can have in his mobile information, not only on where he is, the global positioning system, but also on the environmental conditions that are surrounding us, or the threats when there is a heat wave, or when there is something dangerous to every one of us. We have a large program there. It's called CAMS 84 with Copernicus system, which is all based on the shadows of the absorbing gases. Here are measurements. The first, your beatitude, the first measurements, this is the first slide published by the Copernicus system, 84 billion euro project. And I suggested to have it in Crete. And these are air pollutants in Europe. We do monitor these air pollutants. And we have already several satellites, and the next one is planned for next year. Now, why we need all these gases? We need the gases to forecast what will happen to the Earth in the years to come. Not only the temperatures we know that they will keep on going up, but then the destabilization of climate, which is changing rainfall. Here you can see a simulation of rainfall in Africa from the 20th century to the 21st century. Look at the changes we expect in rainfall. And please concentrate next to the Nile, to the valley of the Nile, and see the aridity that has already started, and people, they know very well, and they know that we do expect important changes. And these important changes, they will cover most of the area that is of great importance for Egypt, which includes also the monsoon area. The monsoons, remember, they are feeding the Blue Nile. Without the Blue Nile, the Nile level will go down. And it's a very dangerous, it can be a very dangerous situation. So these are the predictions for Africa and the Mediterranean. We do expect, unfortunately, that the Sahelian drought will continue, and it will extend also as far east as India. And not only that, the Arabian Peninsula and Sinai, you know, the signs are there. Outside of St. Catherine's Monastery, there is an oasis called the Faran. And this oasis used to have a well. The water was coming out when I was a child. When I was a student at the Madrasa al-Abbasiyya, the Ambetios Scholi in Cairo, we were taken to see the monastery because we were part of the monastery. We were sponsored by the monastery. And you could see that the water was coming out next to the palm trees. There are palm trees there. And the Faran oasis now, the three nuns that they are left there, they get the water from a depth of maybe 25 or 30 meters in a well. So this will become worse. And there is no other human action to explain. The water level is going down simply because rainfall is changing globally. The monsoons are changing globally. The total water of our planet is constant, but it is being redistributed in view of man-made climate change. So this redistribution of rainfall has these consequences, unfortunately. But be sure that scientists will continue to monitor, measure, and propose. These two obelisks are, thanks to Allah, in their place. Thank you very much. Yes.
I lived in India.
Yes. Yes.
And I have suffered much from the monsoon.
Yes.
High humidity, heavy rains. I'm trying to know the link because I'm so surprised that it's the first time to know about it. The link between monsoon and the rains on the Ethiopian plateau.
Yes. It
means that the water is coming from India, not from Ethiopia. We can argue with them.
Well, we can. This is why he is the director of the library. Yes, thank you, Dr. Fegi. Yeah, you're right. But the link is that, unfortunately, you know, the clouds, the rainy clouds, they are spreading all over I mean, not only to India, they provide to Ethiopia parts of their rain because they get part of the monsoonal rain. In fact, probably not all of you are aware that when Nearchos, the admiral of Alexander the Great, he passed the Arabian Peninsula carrying, goods for the expedition, as they call it. He was the first to mention the monsoons, and he was observing the monsoons in the easternmost part of the Arabian Peninsula before meeting Alexander the Great in India. So it's quite interesting to see the peripple of the Arabian Peninsula by Nearchos. There are several books, little books, because it's not much, but it is mentioned there. So you're right. The monsoons are destroying. They produce, the floods that we all know and we see on TV. But at the same time, they provide the water for the Nile. I mean, 80% of it. The rest comes from South Africa. Yes, Madam.
We said we observe, we measure, and we propose. We propose to who, and who is listening. And this is getting into global warming and all that. So whom do you propose to? And, some in the United States, Trump doesn't believe in global warming. So what are we? Trump, I mean. So whom do we propose to, and what do you propose to do?
No one of us has ever proposed to President Trump anything. I'm out. But we are proposing to the United Nations, through the United Nations system, there is the Intergovernmental Panel for Climate Change. I'm part of it. I'm very proud for that and humble. And what we do, we publish articles in scientific journals so everybody could read them. And at the same time, the editors of the IPCC, so-called, of that panel, they make a selection of the most important proposals. And unfortunately, I can tell you that the Paris target of not to increase temperatures above, say, 1.5 degrees cannot be met easily. On the contrary, all our recent calculations with the ensemble of models that we have show that we shall exceed at least 2.5 degrees, unfortunately. These are news, have not been published yet. So this is the way we communicate, through the United Nations, as you know, and that's our only tool today. Unfortunately, that is, but it has always been the same thing, You needed to have the approval of Augustus Caesar, for instance, to have a fleet or to do anything. Yet Galileo managed to say a più si muove, and it moves. So any other? Dr. El-Faqi, I'm humbled to be here. I said that at the beginning. And all my colleagues at the Hellenistic Center, I wish to congratulate you for all the work you're doing, because they are in the shadows, we all are in the shadows of the library. And believe me, I think I express everybody's thought that we are so humble and so proud to be shadows in the Library of Alexandria. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Zarafos.
I've known you for a few years ago, and I never discovered that you are in that level scientific.
Yes. Yes. Thank you, truly, Professor Zarafos, for a very interesting lecture. And allow me to just mention Professor Zarafos, when you spoke about Eratosthenes and his measurement of the circumference of the Earth, that in fact here at the Library of Alexandria, we reenact that measurement with the children of Alexandria every 21st of June here on the plaza. So it's a tradition that we carry on to today annually.
How about in Aswan? You have another group of children there?
Yes. It's in Aswan and it's in Alexandria, and they have major conference because in Aswan there is no shadow, so it's the angle is zero. And,
The well is there.
And the well is there. Yes.
The one you saw.
Yeah.
Yes.
They go every year.
Bravo.
Thank you, Professor. And now the day has come to a close. And on behalf of His Excellency, Professor Mustapha Al-Fiqhi, I would like to thank you all for attending this commemoration today and to invite you all to a small luncheon before we depart ways. So, Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I bid you farewell. Thank you.